In 1993, the most powerful technology company in the world was about to die. Not metamorphically, not in the dramatic Silicon Valley sense of disruption. I mean, actual obituaries were being written. Analysts were sharpening their pens. Wall Street had essentially given up. And IBM, the company that built the backbone of global computing, the company that gave the world the personal computer, the company that governments, banks, and corporations ran on, was losing money at a rate that would make your head spin. Think about this for a second. In 1993, IBM posted a loss of $8.1 billion. That was not a typo. $8.1 billion in a single year. That is more than what the entire Indian IT industry had earned in profits that same year. The industry that IBM helped build was now outperforming the company that built it. And here is the terrifying part. IBM's stock had already hit a 20-year low. The company that once commanded respect and fear across every boardroom on the planet was now a cautionary tale. Business school professors were already using IBM as the definitive example of how the mightiest can fall. If IBM had collapsed in 1993, the entire enterprise computing industry would have been different. No hybrid cloud that we know today, no Watson AI, and the cascading effect on the global IT industry infrastructure would have been catastrophic. So, before we dive deep into this case study, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the Business Playbook. So, what exactly went wrong? It wasn't one thing. IBM crisis had three distinct interlocking problems. Problem 1. IBM broke itself into too many pieces. And here's what happened. By the early 1990s, IBM had decentralized to the point of dysfunction. Imagine 3 lakh employees operating in dozens of semi-autonomous units, each with their own IT systems, their own processes, their own cultures. When a client placed an order, it might bounce through 5 different systems before anyone touched it. Invoicing was disconnected from delivery, customer service didn't know what sales had promised. The cost of this complexity was staggering. IBM's leadership identified this as a core function problem. CRM was broken, product development was siloed, and procurement was fragmented. Even logistics was a huge mess. And then clients started saying it is very difficult to do business with IBM. So, between 1996 and 1998, just fixing the redundant cost from decentralization would cost the company years of pain, but ultimately save $5 billion. $1 billion in cost avoidance and savings between 1996 to 1998, just by fixing the redundancy caused by the decentralization. That number alone tells us how broken the system was. Then, problem 2, the commodity trap, selling the wrong thing. The technology world in the early 1990s was splitting rapidly and mercilessly into two camps. Commodity products, where margins were thin and competition was brutal, and high value innovation, where the real money lived. IBM, weighed down by its complexity, was being pulled towards the commodity end. And if there's one place a company like IBM cannot afford to be, it's in the commodity war. Let's understand this commodity trap by using Michael Porter's theory of competitive advantage that tells us that sustainable business success requires either cost leadership or differentiation. And IBM in the early 1990s had neither. It was too expensive to win on cost and too fragmented to consistently deliver the integrated high-value solutions client actually needed. And what made this doubly dangerous is what IBM's own annual worldwide tracking study would reveal later as businesses move through 3 stages of technology adoption: access, integration, and on-demand business. IBM's clients were demanding stage 3, and IBM could barely deliver stage 1 reliability. And at last, problem number 3, the culture was broken. Perhaps the most dangerous problem of all was invisible. IBM's culture had become deeply siloed. Business units protected their turfs. Compensation was tied to unit performance, not company performance. Collaboration, the one thing that would eventually save IBM, was actively discouraged by the incentive structure. So, there is a Nobel Prize-worthy insight embedded in IBM's cultural problem. Daniel Kahneman's work on loss aversion and system thinking tells us that people within organization will protect existing structures, even dysfunctional ones. because the pain of loss feels greater than the potential gain from change. IBM had institutionalized loss aversion at scale. Middle managers optimized for their unit metrics. Senior leaders protected their divisions. The client, the one entity IBM existed to serve, was an afterthought in the incentive structure. And nobody had the mandate to change this. So, how do you fix a culture of 3 lakh people? That is not a technology problem. That is a human problem. And it is the hardest problem of all to solve. So, in the year 1993, IBM brought in a new CEO named Lau Gersner. He had never run a tech company before. Even everyone in the Wall Street thought he was a wrong choice. But what he did next became one of the greatest comeback in the business world. So, let's see what he did. Move 1. Reinventing the customer relationship. IBM's first and most urgent problem was simple. Clients said it was painful to do business with IBM. Partners said it took too long to process orders. So, IBM did something that sounds obvious but is extraordinarily hard to execute at scale. It listened. The response was the creation of IBM.com as a full stack commercial engine, not a marketing brochure, a genuine transactional platform. By 2004, IBM.com was recording 284.4 million net web visits and more than 15.2 million sales calls and operating in 83 countries and managing transactions in 31 currencies. 65% of all client interactions moved to web-based channels. Second, 57% of the client base preferred the TelWeb platform. And third, $757 million in cost avoidance from My Support portal alone. And then IBM did something even smarter. It used its own transformation as a case study to sell to clients. When Allied Irish Bank's CIO was trying to understand how IBM could help them, IBM's consulting team didn't just present a pitch deck. They walked the client through IBM's own on-demand business journey. The CIO's reaction? A light went on. That is the power of being a living laboratory. Solution 2. The integrated supply chain revolution. In 2002, IBM made a decision that would redefine what supply chain excellence would mean for the entire technology industry. It took 30 separate supply chains, 30, and integrated them into one unified program working across 35,000 suppliers and 45,000 business partners. The result? Over $20 million in cost saving over just 3 years. But here's what even more impressive than the cost savings: the flexibility it created. IBM was now able to synchronize supply and demand in real time, achieving the lowest number of unfilled orders in its history. The company generated $500 million in additional cash over 2 years just from inventory optimization. Consider Magirus, one of Europe's largest IBM business partners. Their problem was order cycle times that took days. IBM worked with them to implement a B2B touchless order system using XML-based Rosetta Net Open standards. The result? Orders processed completely electronically, a 23% increase in IBM server revenue in the second half of 2003, and a project that was completed on time, on budget, and in 15 months. This is one of the best projects I have ever run with anyone, said the CEO of Magirus. Solution 3. Fixing the culture from the inside. And this was the most hardest part. You can change a process in 6 months, but you cannot change 3 lakh people in 6 months. And IBM knew this, so they took a clever approach for this. First, they built a digital workspace called the On-Demand Workspace. It connected every IBM employee across 170 countries on one platform. Think of it like a very powerful company intranet, but one where you can find experts, complete training, manage HR, and collaborate with teams globally. 81% of IBM employees used it every day. It saved the company $680 million. Second, they ran something called World Jam, a global online event where tens of thousands of employees could share ideas, raise problems, and suggest solutions, all at the same time. In 2003, IBM used this to rewrite their company values, not from the boardroom, but from the ground up, with inputs from employees everywhere. And third, and this is the key one, they changed how people were paid. Earlier, your bonus depended only on how your team performed. IBM changed this so that part of your bonus also depends on how the whole company performed. Suddenly, people started helping each other. IBM CEO Sam Palmisano told Harvard Business Review, "I'm convinced we would not have gotten to this point if we hadn't found a way to engage the entire IBM population in a genuine, candid conversation." IBM story wasn't just a history lesson, it is a business manual. So, what I and you can learn from this case study. Number one, survive first, then grow. IBM did not started with a big vision. They started with one question: how do we stop losing money? Between 1993 and 2002, the entire focus was on fixing the basics, cutting waste, simplifying processes, making it easier for customers to buy from them. Only after that foundation was solid did CEO Sam Palmisano came in and say, "Okay, now let's think about growth and innovation." So we see this mistake everywhere. Startups raise money and immediately think about expansion. Companies launch new products before the core product actually works. The lesson: fix what is broken before you try to build something new. Survival is not weakness, it is the foundation of everything that comes after. For you, the next time you are tempted to jump into strategy before solving operations, stop. Ask yourself, what is the most painful point for me right now? And fix that first. Lesson number 2: integration is your biggest weapon. IBM's biggest competitive advantage was not their technology. Their competitors had good technology too. IBM's real advantage was integration, the ability to bring together services, consulting, hardware, software, and supply chain into one seamless solution for the client. When IBM walked into a client meeting, they were not selling one product, they were selling a complete solution. And because IBM had already used this approach on themselves, fixing their own supply chain, their own customer experience, their own culture, they could show clients real proof that it worked. And this is what IBM called being a living laboratory. Use yourself as the case study, practice what you preach. The lesson here is stop thinking in silos. The real value is not in one skill or product. It is how well you connect everything together. The more integrated your solution, the harder it is for anyone to replace you. For you in your career, this means building T-shaped skills, deep in one area but connected across many. And for your business, this means building systems where each part makes the other part stronger. Lesson number 3: change the system, not the people. IBM had a culture problem. People were not collaborating, teams were not helping each other. The easy answer would have been to send everyone for a team building workshop or put up motivational posters. IBM did not do that. Instead, they changed the system. They changed how people were paid, so collaborations was financially rewarded. They built tools, the on-demand workplace, that made it easy to find and work with colleagues across the world. They ran World Jam to give employees a real voice, so people felt ownership over the company's direction. The culture changed because the system changed, not the other way around. So the lesson here: if you want people to behave differently, change what you reward and what you make easy. Behavior follows incentives, always. So that is the IBM story. From an $8.1 billion loss in 1993 to becoming one of the most respected enterprise company in the world. Not by luck, not by a single product launch, but by fixing the basics, integrating everything, and building a culture where people actually work together. IBM's journey did not stop in 2005. Since then, IBM had spent $34 billion to acquire Red Hat, one of the biggest open source companies in the world. They spun off their infrastructure division into a company called Kyndryl, and today they are planning a massive bet on AI and hybrid cloud. IBM reinvented itself once in the 1990s by becoming a service company. It is trying to reinvent itself again today with AI and hybrid cloud. But companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon are also fighting for the same space, with deeper pockets and more data. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Can IBM pull off a second reinvention, or it has already missed the AI wave by being too slow or too late? Share your answer in the comments. I want to know what you think. Also, if you find this video insightful, hit that like button. Share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the Business Playbook for more deep dives into the world of business. I will see you in the next video next week.